The tiled pool deck was still slick and dark from the late morning rain when my brother Ethan decided his own birthday party lacked a certain flair. It was Saturday, August 10th, a sweltering day in Denver, the kind where the humidity clings to your skin and makes every breath heavy. I saw him striding toward me from across the pool, a predator's grin splitting his face. It was a look I knew intimately, a chilling precursor to some new form of pain that he would inevitably frame as harmless fun. At 21, legally and physically an adult, I should have been capable of standing up to my older brother, 24. But a lifetime of being systematically branded as dramatic, oversensitive, and a killjoy had eroded any spine I might have once possessed. I had learned, through years of painful trial and error, that resistance only amplified the eventual punishment. "Hey, everyone," Ethan boomed, his voice echoing over the generic pop music pulsing from the outdoor speakers. His college friends, a collection of lacrosse players and business majors, all turned their attention toward us, their phones glinting in the afternoon sun. Birthday boys about to demonstrate some classic wrestling moves on my little bro. A wave of laughter rippled through the group. My stomach coiled into a tight, cold knot. Ethan's wrestling moves were never playful. They were calculated acts of dominance, thinly veiled assaults that our parents had spent 2 decades convincing everyone, including, for a time, me, that I simply couldn't take a joke. "Ethan, please, not today," I pleaded, my voice barely a whisper. I started to back away, feeling the sharp, unforgiving edge of the pool's concrete coping against the back of my calves. "I'm still in my work clothes," he scoffed, a dismissive, ugly sound. "Work clothes? You mean that pathetic barista uniform?" He gestured to my black polo shirt and khaki pants, stained with a faint trace of coffee from my morning shift at the Daily Grind. "Come on, Liam, don't be such a wet blanket. It's my 24th birthday." My instincts screamed at me to bolt inside and lock the door. I tried to pivot, but he was too fast. His hand clamped around my upper arm like a vice. His grip was crushing, his fingers digging into my bicep with a practiced cruelty that spoke of countless similar encounters. His friends, oblivious or perhaps willfully ignorant, cheered him on, their phone cameras raised to capture what they saw as a harmless bit of sibling rivalry for their social media stories. "Ethan, you're hurting me," I said, keeping my voice low. Making a public scene was a cardinal sin in my family. Any complaint voiced in front of an audience would only lead to a more severe, private retribution later. "Hurting you," he laughed, and it was the same cold, hollow sound that had haunted my childhood. "I haven't even gotten started yet." A dark glint appeared in his eyes. "Remember when we were kids, Liam? The airplane spin." My blood turned to ice water in my veins. The airplane spin. It was his signature move. He'd grab me by the wrists and ankles, hoist me up, and spin me around and around until the world dissolved into a nauseating, meaningless blur of color and sound. Then, at the peak of my disorientation, he would simply let go. As children, it always ended the same way, with me crumpled on the lawn, covered in scrapes, bruises, and grass stains. But we were no longer children, and this wasn't a soft, forgiving lawn. We were standing on a slick concrete pool deck, mere feet from a set of steep concrete steps leading down to the lower patio. "No," I gasped, trying to wrench my arm free, but his strength was overwhelming. He was already hoisting me, my feet leaving the ground as he began to spin. His friends hooped and hollered, their cameras tracking our every move, convinced they were documenting a moment of brotherly fun. The world blurred into a vortex of blues and greens. The pool, the sky, the manicured lawn, spinning into one dizzying smear. Through the dizzying roar in my ears, I heard my mother's voice drift from the patio, light and unconcerned. "Oh, look at them. They're at it again. Boys will be boys." And then he let go. For a split second, time seemed to stretch and warp. As I flew backward, propelled by a force I couldn't control, the world snapped back into focus with terrifying clarity. I saw the look of dawning horror on the face of one of his friends, a young woman named Chloe, as she realized my trajectory. I wasn't heading for the pool or the grass. I was heading directly for the unforgiving edge of the concrete steps. I tried to twist my body, to tuck my arms, to do anything to absorb the inevitable impact, but the momentum and vertigo made it impossible. My lower back slammed into the sharp corner of the top step with a sickening, audible crack that seemed to silence the entire backyard. White-hot agony exploded through me, so absolute and blinding it felt like being struck by lightning. And then, just as suddenly, it was gone, replaced by a profound and terrifying nothingness. No feeling in my legs. No sensation whatsoever below my waist. I lay in a heap at the bottom of the short staircase, my upper body twisted at an unnatural angle, my legs utterly still and unresponsive. The party music, which had seemed so loud moments before, was now a distant thumping. A heavy silence had fallen over the yard, broken a moment later by Ethan's booming laugh. "Dude, that was epic. Did you guys get that on video?" He exchanged a high five with his nearest friend before finally glancing down at my crumpled form. "Get up, drama queen. The ground isn't that comfortable." "I can't," I whispered, the words catching in my throat as a wave of pure, unadulterated panic began to rise. "Ethan, I can't move my legs." "Oh, here we go." My father's voice, thick with irritation, cut through the air as he strode over from the grill. "Every single time we have a party, Liam has to find a way to make it all about him. Get up." "Dad, I can't move my legs," I repeated, my voice cracking, tears of pain and terror now streaming down my face. "Something's really, really wrong. Walk it off. Stop being such a baby." My father yelled, his face flushing a deep, angry red. He wasn't angry out of concern for me. He was angry because I was embarrassing him. "You're making a scene in front of our guests." My mother materialized at his side, a half-empty wine glass sloshing in her hand, her expression one of profound annoyance. "Liam, for heaven's sake, stop being so dramatic. You're ruining Ethan's birthday. He only turns 24 once." "I can't feel my legs," I screamed, the terror finally erupting from my chest, raw and uncontrollable. That finally seemed to get through. The yard fell completely silent. Ethan, his bravado faltering at last, nudged me with the toe of his sneaker. "Come on, man. Get up. The joke's over." That's when Chloe, the friend I'd seen earlier, the one who was in nursing school, pushed her way through the gawking crowd. "Wait! Don't touch him!" she commanded, her voice sharp and authoritative. She knelt beside me, her expression a mask of professional seriousness. "Liam, can you feel this?" She gently but firmly pinched the skin on my calf. "Nothing." She tried my other leg, her touch more insistent this time. Still nothing. Her face went pale beneath her tan. "Nobody move him," she said, her eyes scanning the crowd. "Where's your phone? We need to call 911 right now." "Oh, for crying out loud," my father began, but Chloe cut him off with a glare that could have melted steel. "Sir, he could have a severe spinal injury. If you try to move him, you could cause permanent, irreversible damage." She was already dialing, her fingers flying across her phone's screen. "This is Chloe Davis. I need an ambulance at 784 Aspen Lane. Possible spinal injury from a fall. Male, early 20s, conscious but no sensation in his lower extremities." "This is ridiculous," my mother slurred, swaying slightly. "He's perfectly fine. He always does this for attention." But I wasn't fine. I was lying broken on the concrete, unable to feel half of my own body, while my parents complained about the inconvenience I was causing. Ethan had gone silent, his face a mixture of confusion and dawning fear as his friends began whispering amongst themselves, some of them quietly deleting the videos from their phones. The paramedics arrived within what felt like both an eternity and a few seconds. The lead paramedic, a calm woman with kind eyes and impossibly steady hands, immediately took control of the chaotic scene. She knelt down beside me, her presence a beacon of calm in my storm of panic. "Sir, can you tell me your name?" "Liam." "Okay, Liam. Can you tell me what happened?" My voice shook as I spoke. My brother, he was spinning me around, and he threw me. I hit the steps. I can't feel my legs. He's exaggerating. My father interjected from the sideline. They were just horsing around. It was an accident. The paramedic ignored him completely, her focus entirely on me. Liam, can you try to wiggle your toes for me? I closed my eyes and concentrated with all my might, sending a desperate command from my brain to my feet. Nothing happened. Not a twitch. Not a flicker. I opened my eyes and saw her exchange a grave look with her partner. It was a look that made my already sinking heart plummet into a dark abyss. As they expertly and gently secured me to a backboard, immobilizing my head and neck, the lead paramedic made a call that would detonate my family's world. This is Unit 32. We're going to need police backup at our current location. We have a possible assault resulting in paralysis. Assault? My mother shrieked, the word cutting through the quiet hum of the neighborhood. This is our home. Our son just had an accident. Ma'am, the paramedic said, her voice firm but not unkind. The victim has stated twice that he was thrown. Given the severity of the injury and the mechanism he described, we are mandated reporters. We're required to notify the police. The police cruiser pulled up just as they were loading me into the back of the ambulance. I could hear my father's voice, loud and indignant, arguing with an officer, insisting it was a private family matter. A simple accident, just boys being boys. But Chloe, my unexpected guardian angel, was already giving her statement to another officer, and several of the party guests were hesitantly showing the police the videos they had taken just moments before. At the hospital, the world became a blur of bright lights, urgent voices, and the sterile smell of antiseptic. The emergency room doctor, a man named Dr. Evans, had the same calm, kind eyes as the paramedic. He looked at me, really looked at me in a way my own parents rarely did. Liam, he said, his voice gentle, I need you to be completely honest with me. Has your brother ever hurt you before? The question, so direct and so validating, broke a dam inside me that had been holding back 21 years of suppressed pain and confusion. The torrent of memories, the years of being told I was the problem, that I was too sensitive, that I was a liar. It all came pouring out in a flood of ragged sobs. Yes, I cried. The single word a confession and an accusation. All the time. But my parents, they always said I was just making a big deal out of nothing. Dr. Evans nodded slowly, his expression unreadable as he made notes on my chart. We're going to take excellent care of you, Liam. But first, we need to get you into an MRI so we can see exactly what we're dealing with. The results of that MRI would haunt my family forever. But for me, they were a form of vindication. Dr. Evans returned a couple of hours later, accompanied by another doctor, a neurosurgeon named Dr. Chun. Their faces were solemn, their gravity filling the small room. Liam, Dr. Chun began, his tone soft but direct. The MRI shows a severe burst fracture of your L1 vertebra, with significant compression of the spinal cord. That's what's causing the paralysis. He paused, taking a deep breath. But that's not all we found. He pulled the images up on a large monitor beside my bed. He pointed to several different places on the ghostly black and white image of my spine. You have multiple old compression fractures in various stages of healing. Your T8, T12, and L3 vertebrae all show clear evidence of previous, untreated trauma. I stared at the screen, my mind struggling to process the words. Old fractures. These injuries, Dr. Evans explained gently, they didn't happen today. Based on the bone remodeling, some of these are months old and some are likely years old. Liam, has your brother been physically aggressive with you for a long time? My mind flashed back through a catalog of pain I had been taught to dismiss. Being pushed down the basement stairs when I was 12. You're so clumsy, Liam. Being body slammed onto the hardwood floor during one of Ethan's play fights. When I was 15, boys will be boys. Being thrown off the trampoline and landing hard on my back when I was 18. Stop being such a baby. It was just a joke. Each incident had left my back aching for weeks. A deep, persistent pain that my parents had steadfastly refused to get checked out, always insisting I was just being dramatic to get out of chores. Yes, I whispered, the truth finally finding its voice. Since we were kids. Detective Miller arrived an hour later. She was a woman in her late 40s, with a no-nonsense demeanor and an air of competence that I found immensely comforting. She was thorough, professional, and most importantly, she believed me without question. The videos from the party clearly show your brother intentionally aiming you and throwing you toward those steps, she stated, closing her notepad. That alone is enough. But combined with the medical evidence of repeated, untreated trauma over a period of years, we're not looking at a single incident. We're looking at a long-term pattern of felony assault and criminal neglect. The question that had been burning in the back of my mind finally spilled out. Will I walk again? I asked Dr. Chen. With immediate surgery to decompress the spinal cord and stabilize the fracture, followed by months of intensive physical therapy, we are cautiously optimistic, he replied. He looked me directly in the eye, his expression grim. But Liam, I need you to understand something. If this had gone untreated today, if your parents had somehow convinced you to just walk it off as they apparently suggested, you would have been permanently paralyzed from the waist down. The damage would have been irreversible. My parents, Richard and Susan, were arrested that night. The charges were child endangerment and criminal failure to provide medical care. It turned out that in Colorado, knowingly allowing ongoing abuse and repeatedly denying necessary medical treatment to a minor, which had started when I was a child, was a serious felony, especially when it culminated in such a catastrophic injury. Ethan was charged with aggravated assault, second degree. The videos from his 24th birthday party, meant to be a source of fleeting amusement, had become the prosecution's exhibit A, irrefutable proof of an intentional attack that resulted in serious bodily harm. The news ripped through our extended family like a shockwave. It split them neatly down the middle. Some of my aunts and uncles rallied around my parents, insisting it was all a terrible misunderstanding, that I was overreacting, just as I always had. But others, led by my mother's younger sister, my Aunt Jessica, finally came forward with concerns they had been too intimidated to voice for years. I always worried, Liam, she told me during a tearful visit to my hospital room. The way they always dismissed your injuries, the way Ethan seemed to take genuine pleasure in hurting you. But your parents were so convincing. They always had an explanation, a justification. They made anyone who questioned them feel like they were the crazy ones. The surgery to fuse my spine was a success, but the recovery was a brutal, grueling marathon. It was 6 months of relentless physical therapy, of learning to command my legs to move again, of celebrating the smallest twitch in a toe as a monumental victory. But the physical healing was only half the battle. The psychological trauma, from both the life-altering injury and the decades of abuse that preceded it, ran much deeper. My therapist, Dr. Albright, gave me the vocabulary for what I had endured. Gaslighting, she explained during one of our sessions. It's a form of psychological manipulation where a person or group makes you question your own sanity, your perception of reality, your memory. They conditioned you for years to doubt your own pain, to believe that your experiences were invalid. That's why you never felt you could seek help. During the trial, the MRI images of my spine were displayed on a massive screen for the jury to see. Dr. Chun testified, patiently explaining how each of the old, healed fractures would have caused significant, debilitating pain and would have absolutely required medical attention. The prosecutor asked him a final, damning question. Dr. Chun, what is the long-term effect on a child who is repeatedly injured in this manner and consistently denied medical care? His answer hung in the silent courtroom. They would learn to live with chronic pain, believing it to be normal, he said. They would internalize the insidious message that their suffering doesn't matter, that their body is not their own. It is, frankly, a form of torture. My parents' defense attorney tried to paint me as a naturally clumsy, accident-prone child, but the videos from Ethan's party were impossible to refute. The jury could see him calculating the angle. They could see the intentional, forceful release aimed directly at the concrete steps. They heard my parents on the 911 call, and on the officer's body cameras, dismissing my paralysis as mere attention-seeking. Ethan was sentenced to 7 years in a state prison for aggravated assault. My parents each received 4 years for child endangerment and criminal neglect. The judge's words rang through the courtroom with righteous fury. Parents have a fundamental, sacred duty to protect their children from harm and to provide for their medical care. You not only failed catastrophically in this duty, but you actively participated in and covered up a campaign of ongoing abuse that nearly cost your son the use of his legs. It's been 3 years now. I can walk again with the help of a cane on bad days, and I'll always live with a certain level of pain and physical limitations. But I can walk. I live in my own apartment downtown, far from the suburbs and the house with the pool. I found a new purpose working as a patient advocate at the very hospital that put me back together. I speak at conferences and to medical students about the subtle signs of child abuse and the critical importance of recognizing it in medical settings. My brother wrote me a single letter from prison. There was no apology, no remorse. It was just a page filled with bitter complaints about how I had ruined his life. I threw it in the trash without a second thought. My parents were released early for good behavior a few months ago. They have tried to contact me through relatives, peddling a new narrative that they'd been misunderstood, that they had only ever wanted to toughen me up. I've learned a lot in these past 3 years. I've learned that toughening up shouldn't involve spinal fractures. I've learned that boys will be boys must never be used as a get-out-of-jail-free card for assault. I've learned that being called dramatic should never, ever prevent someone from getting the medical care they need. The MRI images from that day are still a part of my permanent medical file, but to me, they represent so much more than just injury. They are tangible proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't a liar, that I wasn't oversensitive. They are the silent, undeniable evidence that the very people who were supposed to protect me were the ones causing the most profound harm. Chloe, the nursing student who made that fateful 911 call, is now a practicing ER nurse. We've stayed in touch, and she told me once that my case fundamentally changed how she approaches her job. I always listen now, she said. When someone tells me they're hurt, I believe them, period. And in the end, that's all I ever wanted. To be believed. It took partial paralysis and a series of black and white images to finally get it. But now I use my voice, my story, to ensure that others don't have to wait that long or pay such a terrible price. Because no one should ever have to prove their pain with a collection of broken vertebrae. No one should be told to walk it off when they can't walk at all. The truth, captured in those ghostly images, not only convicted my family but finally set me free. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more dramatic true stories.